All right, well, let's get started. 7 o'clock. And we're going to be doing Robert Monroe's Ultimate Journey, chapters 5, 6, and 7. See what we can get through on that today. Do a little round of intros. I'm Juice out of New York. And I had a cool experience. A few days ago, I had a real vivid dream with being with my deceased cat. So it was pretty cool. It was so emotional that when I woke up, I had tears in my eyes, and it was brief. And I remember asking the cat how old he was today, and he said he was 21.
Oh,
And then I was just basically hugging the cat, putting my head on it like this, and I didn't want to. I didn't want to go. I just wanted to be with it, and I started crying because I know I had to leave, and then I actually woke up and I was crying myself. So it was a real nice dream. And that was during one of the gateway practices I was doing in the morning. That's when that happened.
yeah,
So it
that's
was a
cool.
great experience. What's new with you, Susan?
Not much. Really not much. I'm still working outside. I was going to do it today, but it was just so humid. Well, you remember Texas. It's so humid today, and you just walk outside and just get little droplets of water all over you. So it's just cloudy and foggy and humid. So no painting today. I just laid around, didn't do much of anything, just relaxed.
It's actually starting to get warm here in the Northeast now. So it's nice. Everybody's starting to go outside, it's getting in the 60s. We're, going to the park, riding bikes and stuff. It's real nice. All right. Hey, Mikey. What's going on? What's new?
Good afternoon, all.
Good
It's
afternoon,
beautiful
Mikey.
to join you guys this afternoon. I'm from the Caribbean, by the way. Don't think I've said this before. And I got the opportunity to study the chapters 5, 6, and 7. And it
Excellent.
was a wonderful experience. And I'm looking forward first going through the chapters as we go along.
Great. That's great, Mikey. Thanks, Mikey. Hi, Julie.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Good to
What's
see
new?
y'all.
Good to see you.
Oh, not much is new. Not too much is new.
No, that's definitely okay. Thanks, Julie. Hi, Marty.
Hey,
You
how
got
are
a new
you?
you got a new friend next to you. Another new
Yes,
friend.
this is Ailey. Hi, Ailey. Ailey's a Space Coast resident. We here at Cocoa Beach are on the Space Coast. Saw a beautiful launch at 4:58 this morning, 4:24 this
Nice.
morning, something like that. Beautiful launch.
Did you ever see
Nothing.
the movie Communion or read the book? What was
Yes.
Rivers? Okay, that's where I live here. That's where he had his cabin in upstate New York.
Ooh, cool.
Anything
That's
new
all
you
I
want to
have to say.
share? Okay.
No, still trying to read Astral Dynamics. My God, what a slog. But it seems like there's a lot of good stuff in there.
Right. Did you actually say last time, Marty, that you actually finished Ultimate Journeys? Did you finish the
Yes,
book?
I did.
You
Yes,
did.
I did.
Okay. That's what I thought you said. Cool.
Yes, I thank you so much for giving us the discipline to go through that again, because there's really a lot of stuff with, all the stuff about trying to save people who don't know they're dead and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's really cool. The lifeline thing, a little sad ending to the whole book in my realm, about, I won't jump ahead, so I won't do another spoiler. But anyway, sad
Yeah.
ending to the book, I think.
And it's good to get everybody's views, like different views on the book. So you might miss something and somebody else might pick it up. So that's always a good
Very
point
good.
too.
Yes, so thank you all. Thank you all. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. Harris, would you like to do an introduction? basically where
Yeah,
maybe where you're from, and if you want to share an experience with the group or anything on the topic.
sure, I don't mind, but I can't really talk about the book because I don't own it. Plus, I mean, I just came to this session just to maybe learn about it from you guys. But, anyways, yeah, I'll introduce myself. So, my name's Harris, and I currently live in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I was actually born in Alberta, Canada, but I moved here since I was young. And in regards to any experiences, if you want to talk about anything astral, so I can't really say I've done astral traveling in the sense where you know your soul literally just like levitates out of your body and you go and move around places. But I've done a lot of astral viewing. You know, I can pretty much see all around the world or see around space with the help of stones or crystals. You know, things like, let's say, tourmaline, shaman stones, or even things like amethyst or a lot of other things. Depends on if they let me basically, well, I don't know, maybe access the spirit realm. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. So I can just see things, but I can't really travel with my body like Doctor Strange or something. So yeah. Anything else you guys want to know?
I'd
Did I
be
miss?
interested in knowing the stones that you're talking about. The one stone that you said, shaman stone, is that the mochi ball, the mochi
Yes, it
marbles
is.
or
The one
mochi?
from Utah.
I just, this is kind of a coincidence, quote unquote, but
Mm-hmm.
I just finished texting a shaman I know asking, what are these? A friend of mine yesterday told me about these. I never heard about them before. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know where to find them, and she doesn't either. And I said, I do know a shaman that I could ask. And I texted him actually last night, and he texted me back just a short
Mm-hmm.
while ago saying, oh, they're from Utah. And I'm like, okay, what's that?
Yeah.
What do you mean? I mean, and anyway, so I'd be very curious to know where you got yours, and then what other crystals have helped you.
Sure. Okay. So, well, okay, since I stay in Asia, there are online platforms called, okay, I don't know if you know them, but they're called Shopee, Lazada. You can get them from suppliers who are mainly in Hong Kong, because in Hong Kong, that's basically like the crystal hub of Asia. They basically buy all the crystals from everywhere else, like Uruguay, Europe, Africa, all these other places, and
Mm-hmm.
they ship it to all the other places like Malaysia, Singapore, places in China. So it's a very big thing here, especially if you're talking about feng shui. So I got mine from a holistic healing store. I mean, an online one from this place called Shopee. And so let me just tell you a bit about my experience about the shaman stones. So these stones are very mysterious in the sense where they will work for you when like either you're ready or when they want to work with you. Sometimes like when you want to work with them, they don't show you anything, but it's sort of like divine timing, or it's about whether it is the right timing. Depends on nature, I think. But other than that, so these stones are actually very, very powerful. They can actually let you have access to the matrix. Basically, you see the matrix of life and creation. You can see things like how cells are constantly being created and destroyed at the same time. They can even let you access other parts of the spirit realm, and they can also ground you so much that then you can handle extremely stronger kinds of crystals like tektites, or they can basically make you um, a lot stronger at viewing, well, sorry, astral viewing, or they can make you more strong at other psychic activities because they're extremely grounding. And like, yeah, so they
So
really just like
specifically,
ground
the
you.
shaman stone is what you're talking about in this case.
Yes, the shaman stones.
Okay.
Like they are one of the strongest Earth Star chakra stones that you can find on Earth at the moment. Aside from, let's say, black kyanite, which I also have, and these two kind of stones, they might be very useful if, let's say, if you're going to astral travel and there are like a lot of let's say bad entities, maybe demonic ones, or maybe aliens or this kind of thing, then they might be very useful. They might they will basically solidify your auric field to the point where it's like wearing a heavy duty armor, Kevlar armor, this kind of thing. So
Okay,
yeah, I
so
mean
that's
that's
the shaman stones and the black hynite, did you say?
yes, black kyanite. Normally you can only get them in pendant form, but you can never get them in the bead form because um, some sources say that they're they're kind of fragile, so that's why you can't run them through running water because they might I don't know, dissolve or break off a bit because they always come in fan forms or in the blade. So you only find the pendant form, and you can easily find them on eBay, I believe. But for the
I
shaman
just want to
stones,
find
yeah,
a reputable place.
sure.
Yeah,
So I think
interesting.
for the States, there's this website called Satin Crystals. So I think they have a lot of the stones from Utah, but
Okay,
otherwise you can try eBay. I don't think they have a lot of fakes because
okay.
the shaman stones have a very distinct look to them. I mean, I
Uh,
think you just have to do your research. You have to just like
yeah,
really study how they look, and
yeah,
you'll get an idea of it. But otherwise, just use your intuition when you're searching for the stones online, or just talk to the shaman. Just get more info about him. Maybe just like ask him
yeah. He
about his
doesn't use
experiences
them.
with it. He
He did
doesn't use
recommend
them.
a place, but he doesn't use them. No, he uses a bunch of crystals, but he doesn't use those. And he
Oh, he doesn't
recommended a
use the
place.
shaman stones.
Pardon me.
Oh, I see.
Pardon me.
Okay. I mean, it depends on him. I mean, maybe he feels like he doesn't need the shaman stones, or the shaman stones aren't working with him. Because, yeah, these stones, it's like they have a mind of their own.
Oh,
Sometimes some
interesting.
people could really sense that there's something there, or it's not. I mean,
Right.
I think there's a reason why there's like a whole bunch of stones just lying around in Utah, and people just step over them. They don't notice anything. It's because maybe they're not chosen by the stones, or the stones have not chosen to work with them.
Hmm.
Unless maybe, well, let's say if you're destined to work with them, if you really need to work with them, you need to work with your Earth Star chakra, because maybe you're somebody who's not very grounded like me. Then yeah, I guess then they will work with you. But maybe for that shaman that you're talking about, maybe he already knows how to ground himself. He already knows how to
Yeah,
do
he's
a
been
whole
doing it
bunch of things.
for a long
So
time. Yeah,
yeah,
he does.
for those
When you
stones,
say astral viewing, do you mean remote viewing?
yes, remote viewing.
Yeah, yeah, that's what he does.
Yep,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So anything else you want to know?
No, thank you for the info.
All right,
Yeah,
you're welcome.
thanks, Harris. All right, let's move on to Mouse Masain Bendao. Is
Yeah,
that, did I pronounce
yeah,
that right?
it's Mohsin from Morocco. I
Wow,
have
welcome.
20.
Masain, I'm sorry, we can't hear you right now. All right, guys, we're ready to head into chapter 5, called Recoup and Regroup. So I'm just going to read some of my notes. Chime in at any time. Throw your hand up. Interject. Whatever you need to do. Here we go. Started chapter 5. Monroe found it impossible to get over the loss of his inspec friend. He tried many times to meet again, and the contact point was empty. So we have a little sad start here, knowing that Monroe has, let's see, from the previous chapter, he realized he lost his inspec friend for now, and he won't be able to become human again. That was another thing on the previous chapters. So that's what we're riding into on this chapter. And he tries to go back to the contact point, which is just outside the Earth, farthest area, and it was empty.
I want to tell you something.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I will show you something that's very important. Now, you see that?
Knife? No? Oh,
What is that? We can't hear you.
You see it? You see it? You see it?
uh-huh, we see it.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
green.
See that?
Yes.
And see that? Yeah, that.
We see it.
What is it?
This is in Morocco like a smoke.
Like cannabis?
Wait, that we smoke it by that.
Okay. Pipe. You have a pipe?
Yeah, like a pipe, like a pipe.
Is it consciousness altering?
Yeah, like a pipe. I make that. I make it. I cook it and I smoke like feel in the same house. And you remember. Yeah, you remember your amphion. You remember everything.
Okay, so it's like from previous life and stuff like that.
Yes.
What is it called?
In your country, you don't have a name. In my country, we have a name. You want to see it again?
If you could write the name of it in the chat box so we can all have the name of it.
In this marijuana.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Hashish?
Yes, like hashish, like.
Okay.
That's what I said.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm familiar.
It's hashish.
No, it's not hashish.
It's not hashish, but it's like it.
Like hashish is not hashish. I make it by that.
Okay.
Can you type the name of the product in the chat box?
Down.
No, it's not have a name. It's not have a name.
Oh, there's no name.
Oh.
Okay,
well,
so
well, in your language. Oh, you can't type it in your language? Okay. Yeah, I see.
Yeah. In my language, we tell Kif.
Oh, Keef. Yeah. K-I-F.
K-I-F.
Yeah. Keef. Mm-hmm.
Julie, are you familiar with it? What does it?
No, but all I did was look up Morocco, hashish in Morocco, and it says everything you need to know about smoking keef in Morocco. Isn't that where you're from?
Yeah.
All right.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you so much for my question.
Okay, guys, back to the book here. So now with the inspec connection seemingly dissolved, Monroe's goal of becoming a member of that species dimmed. So do you guys remember in previous, that's what he wanted his new goal to be, become an inspect? Do you guys remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So now that's kind of gone away since he can't meet up with them anymore. So Monroe was now supposed to take a new direction, but he had no idea or clue as to what that meant. So now he's a little confused on which direction he's supposed to go at this point. And then Monroe gets into the Earth life system. We talks about this a lot now, the Earth life system. This goes through many chapters. When carbon-based life began to appear and expand into various forms, every form had a prime directive: survive. The Earth life system is seen as a food chain predator system. Grow and exist as long as you can. Get what you need to exist. Maintain your species by reproducing. Monroe mentions every participant is a predator, and the process cannot be altered or changed as long as the Earth life system exists. Survival is difficult, if not impossible, without predatory action. Would anyone like to talk about that? Susan?
I know what he's saying. You know, he's it's our survival. You know, it's our predator prey, and we're all both. We're all everything. You know, that no one. We think we're the highest on the food chain. I don't really think that we are. But you know, but it doesn't. I mean, yes, we are very physical, and we're very concerned with the you know, how we have to get by in this world. Then when you bring in the spiritual part, that's a little different. That's because we are such a left brain kind of society, and this harsh environment. The fact that we moved into spirituality and all of these abilities to astral travel, to our meditation, everything is miraculous to me that you know that we were able to you know get past the survival part, because we're in a real survival state here.
All right. Thanks, Susan. Marty?
As far as the food chain goes, which Juice you probably can relate. Those of us who have been vegan, and I've been vegan for over 30 years. There are many plants that manage to propagate themselves by making their fruits, grains, nuts, etc., attractive to other beings to eat, and that don't hurt their survival. In other words, you eat an apple from a tree, it does not kill the tree. It, in fact, makes the tree able to propagate itself, because an animal eats the apple, it trots on off, poops the seed out somewhere else, and makes the tree propagate itself better without hurting the tree. In other words, we don't have to hurt anyone else to survive, if we just know that is the fact. So I think that Monroe did not understand that or know that when he went on about the food chain. So, you know, you hear that from everything, everywhere you go, that it's dog eat dog or else you die, but it in fact is not the truth for those of us who know better. So that's my take on the situation.
It kind of brings up, you remember when he talked about the valley, the perfect valley with those 4 humans? And everybody lived in harmony, the plants, the animals, the insects, the viruses.
Yeah.
So it looks like they got to that point at one time. And I don't know why it stopped eventually. But yeah, I always felt like I got off on the wrong exit here on this planet because of that. It seems like I should be in that valley myself. Yeah. So interesting stuff. And it was funny, Marty, I was just talking to my father about that apple thing today too, about the apple tree. What a coincidence! About the perfect harmony of it. The apple, the tree stays alive. We plant the seeds for the tree. We nourish ourselves, and there's like a perfect cycle there. So yeah, interesting. So then Monroe gets in and talks about the evolution of human beings on Earth. An unusual spark appeared in one life form. It could have happened to any one of the thousands of species, but why it happened to this one, no one yet knows. This new mutation had to endure hundreds of thousands of years before they became aware. More than just another animal. Hey. So humans become a mind consciousness foreign to the Earth life system itself. As time goes on, again and again, the alien human, you can see he uses alien human there, began to express and demonstrate elements completely incompatible with the Earth life system. And I could still feel that today.
Yeah.
the incompatibility, what we're doing to our planet, of humans and the planet here. We can either make it beautiful or destroy it. Because human beings know that they are more than mere animals living and dying in the Earth life system, little has been achieved as a result. So humans as a whole remain unfulfilled and restless. So I guess, out of that, I kind of get it. Why we're such seekers in religion and stuff. He talks about all these different philosophies and stuff, because we're restless, we're unfulfilled. At the end of the chapter, Monroe asks, "What is the missing basic?" And this leads into the other chapters. This question that he has here: what is the basic, the missing basic? Does anybody want to get into that? How they feel, what he means by that? What is the missing basic? And that's all the notes I have on 5. Would anybody like to comment on anything in chapter 5? Go ahead, Mikey. You got the floor.
From what I gather is he seems to accept the fact that the survival command was okay until man came along and broke that. So it seems as if it was okay for survival. You had the creatures there had to eat, and that was okay because there was this balance. But when man came along, he broke that balance.
So do you see it as, like, at one point it sounds like we evolved into those type of people, but then it seems like he starts calling us alien, like we were planted here. What do you think on that?
Well, I think the whole chapter dealt with the 3 chapters actually dealt with an evolution of the planet. I can't remember the name he called it. And then there's an evolution of the physical human being. And then there's the evolution of what I would call the spiritual human being. So it's like the whole chapter is, the whole 3 chapters deals with it. I think if I could wrap all into one line, it would be in chapter 6, where it says, just under what you said, imagine it's a structure in layers, something like an onion, and let us work from in to out. So if I could paraphrase the 3 chapters, it would be this line.
Great, yeah. I had that one highlighted too. I agree. Well, that moves us into chapter 6. What Mikey just talked about here. Inside and outside. At the start of the chapter, Monroe asks again, where is this missing basic? And I don't have much notes on this. He kind of gets into, like, psychology, it seems like to me, on the mind and stuff a lot in this chapter. But Monroe asks, what are we really? And Monroe starts to break down the human mind like an onion, working from the in to the out. And then Monroe starts to break down the common signs of the core self that may emerge through the layers. And he gets into all these different core selves. So if you read the book, there's all these different things that he breaks down. And then Monroe starts to get into the big L, the big love, the word love, with the heavy emphasis on sexual arousal and the myth of romance. It is not a surprise that so many claim to experience what we may now call the big L in their relationships. Not so. The only way you can obtain it is through shared life experience. And even then, there is no guarantee. Susan?
I agree. I liked that, and I agree with him. I do. I liked the concept of the big L, the love that doesn't die with death, the love that continues. That's you know, it's unconditional and it doesn't die. You know, I love that.
Marty?
Yes, if you read through, of course, the whole book, at the end, he more or less intimates that his wife Nancy was a big L with him. He calls her, her nickname is the Silver Queen, which he talks about that was his favorite type of corn when he was in the 3000th century with the people there, that he manifested the Silver Queen type of corn, if anybody remembers that. But I guess he called his wife the Silver Queen, Nancy. Anyway, she was his third wife. I did a little Wikipedia looking, and so it was interesting because I guess he was with her for maybe like 20 years. But anyway, that's part of the sad ending at the end of the book, if anybody read through all the way to the end. So just to put a little bit of that big L into perspective and from his viewpoint.
And it's how he mentions too that it's just not a sexual thing. It actually has to be like a long sharing of experiences and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, if you guys remember the beginning of the chapters, he talks about that he felt like he was cheating on his wife if he had astral sex and stuff, out of body sex. And then eventually he starts doing it. So his wife was cool with it eventually, because relationship's not just about that. So, Julie?
Well, I'm wondering, like, if we do have past lives, and we've had, I don't know, a few big L's in our many past lives. I mean, wouldn't big L be like for my children, for example, unconditional love? That's not going to die. I mean, I don't feel like that would ever die. My love for my children, for example. So, but here's another weird thing. Like my stepsister has talked about how she believes in reincarnation and past lives, and how we have soul families, and how her daughter used to be her mother in another life, and this and that. It's like, well, then, okay, so wait, I could have in another life been, married to my daughter, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? It gets very complicated when you combine all of this. And I guess I feel torn for, and compassion and empathy for those who lose a loved one, like a spouse, for example. They're most, even if they've been married a few times, like some people say, well, if you've been married 3 times, which one are you gonna hang out on the astral realm with after you die? And I've heard a couple different stories, like sometimes they meet up and they end up building a house over there and hanging out and having some more experiences on the astral realm. I've heard also sometimes this one spouse is like, you weren't really that good to me on the earth realm. I don't want to hang out with you. And that spouse goes off and has a romantic relationship with someone else on the astral realm. And then the other spouse is like, oh, okay, well, I guess I don't get to be with that spouse, and has to go off and learn their own lessons. And there's all of this sort of confusion, I guess, or complex. It's complex, it's complicated, right? And I'm just throwing it out there. It's just a lot to think about. I mean, is it bad for me? Is it bad for me to think, I don't feel like I'm supposed to be living out my eternity with one other person? I know that that's how you do it on this earth realm. Like you have your spouse, and then you have your children, and then you have unconditional love for, who knows? Of course, some might be also include sexual relationships, and some might not. I don't know. What do you think, Susan? I see your hand up. Give me some clarity on this.
Well, for the past life thing, you were talking about that it would be confusing to go into the afterlife, and which spouse would you spend your time with, or whatever. And I've read a lot. I've talked to a lot of people that were mediums, that have had experience with this, and I've seen a lot of things too when I've spent time out of body while observing people. And there's the possession, the need to possess, and jealousy and all of that stuff is an earthly thing. That's our ego. That's an ego-based thing. Once you're out of this this realm and you're in a spiritual form, you're back in where you came from. The ego doesn't really have anything to do with it. And love is just something that the more you give, the more you have to give, So it works out. It works out. The fact that maybe your child was your parent in a past life or whatever, it still works out. It's okay, because this is just a role. We come in and we play a role. We're like actors, and we step into this costume and we play a role. It's not really who we are. It's just who we're being. And so, I have, I think I've said it before, that I was born. I have memories of so many past lives, very, very clear memories. And a lot of times I know who fit in where my children fit in, my husband fit in, different people fit in. But there's no infringement on this life because of that. It's just, this is what we're doing now. This is what we're doing now. And after you get out there, I remember the medium Arthur Ford talking about when he passed away, he then communicated to a woman named, what was her name? Yeah. It was a lady that he knew real well. When he passed away, he began communicating through her, and she wrote multiple books, a lot of books. But he talked about being on that plane and finding his wife and where they can merge. You call it astral sex. It's just really an energetic merging or whatever. And he talked about, there'd be 3 or 4 of them all just merging together because they loved each other. They had always loved each other. This was an energetic exchange. But there's no jealousy. There's no possessiveness. There's none of that exists there.
So, well, I know that on the middle.
If I could add.
I was just going to say, that have you heard that on the middle astral, some people do choose to just have their one spouse and they do spend time together.
Yeah, I see that too. Yeah.
And I guess what I'm saying is, like, I would feel really bad because I'm just going to be vulnerable here in this recorded thing that's going to be live. Okay, I feel like my husband is more of an earthly mindset, and if he passed on, he'd be like, okay, Julie, where are you? Let's have a house here and let's hang out and I'd be like, see ya, I'm gonna go travel. I'm gonna go do things that I didn't get to do on the earth realm. I love you and I'll come visit, but I'm not gonna sit here and hang out and do what we did here on this earth realm, if that makes sense. So I feel kind of bad. Like, what if he wants that and I'm like, nah, go get yourself someone else to hang out with for when I'm not around or something. That's horrible.
If I can add something here?
Yeah.
Well, Julie, I'm sorry, just let me say one thing. It works out because there's no time there. So you can go travel all you want to and do everything you want to and come right back, and it'll be like, he just blinked his eyes and you're there. Right. So there, everything you can do. Yeah.
I just don't want to make anyone feel bad.
No, it all works out. It all works out.
Yes, Mikey.
Yes, thank you. I lost my ability to raise my hand. Maybe I'm sorry. But those that have passed on the other side, and when I speak to my brother who was passed a few months early on, it's like, I don't care too much. It's like, it was a dream. This entire life was a dream. And I thought when I met him, we would have hugged and we would have cried on each other's shoulders, and was no, it's okay. I'm waiting here. I'm waiting for my turn. He's waiting on his turn to meet someone, I think. And I asked about others who have passed on is, yes, I've met them, but the ability to care seemed to have gone. Not that he does not remember his kids or anything like that, but that ability to feel for things like that is, it's like, oh, this was a dream, and now I'm out of the dream. I feel who I am now, if that helps.
Thanks, Mikey.
Yeah, I've heard that too before, Mikey, that this is when we get there, this is sort of more like a dream state, and we feel like our truer selves on the next round, like, oh, this is who I truly, truly am. And that whole thing was sort of like a dream. I have heard that. It's very interesting.
Marty?
Well, I'd sure like to know how it really is, because sure get a lot of different takes on the situation, and it's making a lot of difference in what my plans are. But my working hypothesis is that even though the I there, that we have a big giant identity, but then we have all of our individual lives, and that we retain the individual identities of each life, that we can go back, and even though we're able to, this is my working hypothesis, we have access to the memories of all of these other lives of our I, theirs, so to speak, as Monroe calls it, that we still are able to maintain the individual identities. And in my case with my husband, I am counting on being able to join him and rejoin in this individual identity that we had. Oh, thank you, Susan. I see a thumbs up. Thank you, Susan.
Yeah.
That even, that all of our experiences will join the memories of all the other identities that are in our I theirs, so to speak, and benefit from future things that we'll be able to keep our identity. So thank you. That's my take, I hope.
Thanks, Marty. I was going to say that I remember William Buman saying that he didn't have a good relationship with his father, and he doesn't care to see his father after this life is finished. I remember that stuck with me. Harris?
Yes. So I just wanted to maybe like not talk about, or maybe just summarize a bit about, the chat about, let's say, having a lot of different partners in the astral world, and then about the love that never dies. So all I can say is that I can actually sort of confirm it, because I actually know of people who have been my past life children. I have I have two kids. I mean, past life kids in Singapore, like one son, one daughter that I know from ancient Greece, and then one from Egypt, who's a 47-year-old Ukrainian lady who's staying in Vietnam. So it's funny because like when you have kids, and if you formed like a very profound relationship with them in different lives, sometimes one of you will easily just recognize each other. Sometimes feelings might come out, like my son, well, my past life son in Singapore, for example. So back in ancient Greece, we didn't have a very good relationship. We used to fight a lot. We were actually warriors at the time. I expected him to be a strong man, to take responsibility, to take over my role as a sort of chieftain, but he wouldn't do that. Instead, he just fought about like wanting to basically enjoy life, be a normal person. But yeah, so it didn't turn out very well towards the end. But it's funny because like when I first met him, it's like he said, "Do I know you?" And then I'm like, "No, I never met you before." And then suddenly I just felt like, I have a very strange feeling about this guy. It's like he's like some kind of estranged family member. But then I sort of care about him still. I didn't know why until I did a bit of astral viewing and found out about my past lives and found out about him. So yeah, it's funny because like really the love just never dies. because I was his father and I did care about him. So that's why I still remember certain things about him. I still care about him, even though we didn't have a very good relationship, even though we fought a lot. But yeah, you know, at least in later lives, maybe you can still make up for it. And also, I mean, okay, specifically about having a lot of partners and possibly trying a lot of different things. So all I can say is I think every wise man or every wise person starts out as a huge or big fool. You need to try out a lot of different things. You need to get hurt, you need to get burned. But in the end, just make sure you learn from the lessons. And you know, I guess towards the end of the human experience, you will become a very wise being and you will learn compassion. It's sort of like, let's say, the Kuan Yin, if anyone knows about that kind of goddess, right? A very forgiving, motherly kind of goddess who she herself watches over her children, over the people who have done all kinds of bad things towards their lives in many different lives. Maybe they've murdered people, maybe they've raped, they've done all kinds of bad things. But in the end, all the suffering that we go through, that will ultimately make us better people once we learn from them and once we get to know the lessons behind these different lives. Now, as long as you look back and you actually reflect, and if you genuinely want to become a better person or a better soul, you will get there. So that's my take.
Thank you, Harris. Susan?
Quickly, I just had two things I was going to say. Somebody had said something about, y'all had said something about, some people don't want to see people that they had problem with in their life after they go into the afterlife or whatever, that they don't want to encounter those beings. I've thought about that before, and I thought, because there's a lot of people, everybody has people in their lives like that, that just for strange reasons are just weird to you, just mean and weird to you. And I thought about that before, and I thought, no, I think I want to see some of these people. I want to go up and just, if I see somebody who was mean to me in school, just go up and say, hey, remember me? You were a bitch to me in school. Thank you, because I learned a lot from that. I learned, even from that, I learned. So thank you. But the other thing I wanted to say, I wanted to tell Marty, when an aunt passed away, one of my aunts passed away back in it's been over 20 years ago. I think probably 25 years ago, she died of cancer. And we talked a lot before she passed away about what she would expect. And she was really one of the first, she was the first sibling in her family to pass away. Her parents were still alive. Her mother was, her father wasn't. But she wondered about all of the same things about, okay, do we get there? Do we recognize people? Do we what? And we talked about it a lot. And, I told her what I'd experienced, and I said, I don't think that that's ever a problem. I think that you will go there and you'll acclimate to where you are, and then you will, when your family crosses over, whatever, no matter where you've gone, you'll still meet them, you'll see them. And about 6 months after she passed away, because we had made a visitation agreement, so it was okay, she was supposed to come and let us know, which she did. She, to her credit, she did some amazing things. But I got impatient one time. I was tired of waiting, because I'd seen her just immediately after she passed. My mother and I both had visitations from her. But then I waited about 6 months, and I thought, okay, well, she's had time now to get something going over there. I want to see if I can find her. And she was the first person I visited in the afterlife. She was the first person that I went to try that. And I practiced, I worked on that for probably 6 weeks, 2 months to get to her. And I finally did. And she was sitting on the side of a hill when I plopped down beside her, and I sat down to talk to her, just a beautiful green grassy hill. And she was so surprised to see me. She said, what are you doing here? Why, why did you, how did you get here? And I said, I followed you. I found, I've got tired of waiting. I want to see how you're doing. and what you're doing. You know, I want to know because I want to tell people. I'm teaching classes. I want to tell people everything that I can. And she said, well, I'm building a house. And then she pointed, and I looked over, and there's a lake. There's a small lake. It's not big. It's you know, it's a personal lake. This was exactly what they had planned to do when she was alive. Her and her husband had planned to retire into the Texas Hill Country. We have lots of relatives up there, and they were going to buy some land on Inks Lake, Lake Travis, Lake, you know, up there somewhere. They were going to build a house. That was going to be their retirement, but she passed away in her 50s. So I think, no, she was 64 when she passed away. It didn't happen for them. So she went on and she built this home on this lake in this afterlife place where she was, and it's big. It's about, I think it was 3 stories tall. If you know, it was 2 stories. And there's a one part of it had an extra, looked like an extra floor, but this was like a lodge. It was a very big. And I said, how come you're building such a big house? You know, isn't that kind of big for one person? She said, well, I'm building this for the family. I'm building this for my husband, for Don when he comes over, my uncle. Said, I'm building this, you know, so everybody has a place. They can stay with me until they see where they need to go, you know, and then they can come back and visit or whatever. This is how I want it. This is what I'm creating. And when Don passes, my husband passes over, this is his home too. We will live in this home. And she said, I have a special room I've made for my daughter here with a glass roof so she can see out at night. You know, it's all these things that she had put, these little touches she'd put in this big home because she expected family and she was expecting guests. So yes, we see our family, and beyond that, we may even get to live with them for a while and continue what we were doing here for a while. You know, I think it's different for everybody, but I think we have an option, you know, to continue if we had a relationship that was going well and we worked well together and we were adventurous together or whatever. I don't think that death has anything to do with changing that. I think we find them and we just continue on if we want to continue with them, and we go have fun with them. And but since there is no time, we have eternity to do all of this stuff, and it doesn't feel like there's any time passing at all. So we see them all, we love them all, and we meet them all again.
Very
Amen.
nice. Julie?
I know we have to finish the chapters. This is so fascinating. That was beautiful, Susan. But then I always throw wrenches into stuff, I guess, and my thinking is all over the place. I think to myself, I've also heard that all these past lives merge in some way into our higher self. Like our higher self has spread out all over the place in parallel universes, as well as all these different past lives. So that this higher self is really our truer self. Now, when I picture the higher self, I don't know if that's the astral body is the higher self, or you know, on the middle astral, or if the higher self is on the higher astral, or if the higher self is on the mental plane, or if the higher self is on the celestial plane. I don't really know how that all works. But so when you say this, it's so beautiful, and I've heard those similar things from other people who have, you know, had OBEs and NDEs, and so it's God. There's something to that. But then I think, well, what about all of our past lives? Do we like run into our past life? Like if we pass over and we're living now, we're permanently our astral self, for lack of a better way of defining this. So here we are, we're our afterlife astral self, and we're having this wonderful time with our family members and stuff like that, which I love. It's just such a beautiful, the whole thing that you painted. And I could picture my father-in-law doing that. Absolutely. He totally has a place for all of us. Anyway, that's what I feel like he would do. But so let's say I cross over, and then do I run into one of my past lives that's also crossed over and living out their astral self? Does that make sense, Susan?
I think that in my experience of it is that when we leave any lifetime, when we leave, what we experience is the first we experience the beings who were part of that life who have passed over, because we need that. It's not really closure. It's just that rejoining of them, and you kind of you spend some time there, but you do, yes, all of your past lives, all of your other lifetimes, extra dimensional, everything goes in there. It all goes in there. It's all part of you. But at any point, your spirit can individuate.
Okay.
And yes, see, and they can relate to those people. You can go on astrally. You can go to people that you have known in other lifetimes. You can go into another lifetime.
Gosh, it's such an upgrade from what I feel I am right now. That's such a huge upgrade.
Yeah.
In terms of multi-dimensionality, it's so hard to fathom for
It's
my
really
brain.
hard for us to understand it here. It's very hard.
Interesting though. Okay. Thank you for saying that. Okay.
All right, I have a few notes left, couple here at the end of this chapter. And one of the last things here is the main characteristic of the big L is that it does not diminish with physical death, and you cannot extinguish it during physical life. So that's comforting to know. After Monroe reflects on all of this, he thinks about the source of the missing basic is now clear, the core self. But how do you really get to know you? That's how he ends the chapter. Anybody like to respond to chapter 6? Mikey, go ahead.
This might be a bit cheating, but I think looking ahead, I think I was able to peep ahead and correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a time when he went to a place and it was asked of him, what did you bring? I got nothing.
Hey, Mikey, we're getting a little wind feedback from you.
Okay, I'm getting my window down now. And I think it's in the same book. He went somewhere and they were asking, what did you bring? And the guide was saying, well, we can't cumulate this right now because you're still alive. And I connect that with the big L. And something Tom Campbell talks about, that we're here to become love. And our goal is to become love. And when I connect that to what Tom Campbell teaches, my view is that we're sent here so that we can become love, we can contribute to love. And love is the thing that we could take over on the other side.
Yeah. And that's kind of how he says it towards the end of that chapter too. Confirms it, Robert Monroe, that you do carry it over. Thanks, Mikey. Julie?
I was just going to say, what's obvious, I think, is we can have the big L for our spouse and for our parents and for our children, but can't we have the big L, this unconditional love for our pets, for animals, for nature, for experiences, our divine experiences that we have with all of these relationships? This is just a question I'm throwing out there.
I think so.
I think so.
There was a friend of mine who, she lives in Jacksonville, Florida, and we communicate astrally once, and we had a good relationship. And once her dog died, and she did not tell me, we did not communicate for a while. And I got a dream. This is not astral, it's just a dream. And in the dream, the dog was happy. And the dog was speaking to me and said, I was there for that period of time, for 8 years, because she was lonely and I was sent there to be her companion. Now I have moved on and I have made my contribution to her. Tell her, don't be sad. And it was very beautiful. And I spoke to her the next day And she was like in tears. How did you know that the dog died? His name was Zach. How did you know that Zach died? And I believe that pets are sent here for us. And the love that we share will also go on the other side.
I agree, Mikey. Before just about everybody was on, I think just Susan was on. I had a dream a day ago where I was with my deceased cat, and I had pure emotions when I was with him, and I asked him how old he was, and then at the end of it, before I woke up, I was holding on to the cat and I was crying because I didn't want to leave, and when I woke up in the physical, I was crying too. All right, what do you guys think? Chapter 7. Get into the tour guide. As we move into chapter 7 here, Monroe is still searching for the missing basic. Musain?
I want to ask a question. In my dream, in the reality, I see number 5. Anyway, 25, 35, 45, 55,
Yeah.
555, number 5. I see anywhere in my dream, in reality. I don't know why.
The only thing I could say to that was that numerology. There's a whole thing about that out there. You can do a search online for it and what numbers mean and what they're trying to tell you when you see different numbers. So if you can, I'll put a little thing down in the chat. It's called numerology. Does anybody else want to respond? Any advice for him?
To see a number like that repetitively, just repeatedly see that number, the number has a message for you. So I would look into the meaning of numbers, of that particular number. You see in it. I see numbers, I see sequences of numbers. And one thing that I've seen my entire life on clocks, on everything, is my date of birth. And so I know when I see that, there's a lesson, there's something for me, there's something I need to sit down, or I just, there's something trying to work its way into my consciousness or work its way down into my consciousness. So I always see them that way, a number like that repeats itself and is personal to me. It sounds like that number is personal to you.
But this number, it's repeating this 30 days for 50 days. 1 day for 1 day for 1 day, number 5 every day.
Yeah, that sounds like it's important then.
Yeah.
I don't know why in this positive or negative.
Yeah, I would see it as a positive.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, definitely, probably a positive. Somebody's trying to tell you something.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so Monroe continue the search for the missing basic. The Earth life system, for all of its shortcomings, is an exquisite teaching machine. Monroe now gets into the left brain and the right brain. And this whole chapter is basically about the left and right brain and the two brains working together, which is his hemisync products. What he tries to do is synchronize the hemispheres of our brain, because we seem to work best as humans when both brain sides work together. Our left brain process is part of us that gets things done. It is the intellectual, analytical area of function. Here lie our mathematical and speech centers, our logical reasoning, our scientific method, our organizational talents and teaching skills, and much more. It is our left brain activity that makes us different from animals. It is the source of our can-do optimism. Would anybody like to talk about the left brain?
Sir,
I don't live there a lot. I prefer my right brain function, but yes, ideally we balance that out so that we function well here. I'm more of a right brain person. I know that I am. I think that each of us are a little bit more dominant one way or the other. I'm definitely more right brained.
Well, then our right brain here is opposite. From this come our perception of form and space, beauty, intuition, emotions, plus everything else the left brain cannot understand or categorize, including love, friendship, inspiration, etc. The right brain is horrified at the idea that the left brain formula can be produced to quantify and qualify love and friendship.
Yeah.
That is right brain sacred territory. Paradoxically, our right brain is the generator of our feelings and negativity. Marty?
Oh, I just wanted to say a couple things. One that probably a lot of people aren't aware of is if you're left-handed, your brain hemisphere is also switch, just in case anybody ever wondered that question. And the second thing is nothing left in my right brain and nothing right in my left brain.
My youngest son is ambidextrous, and he's just this amazing. The way his mind works is just amazing to me. Nobody can use either hand. He just uses them both.
Wow. Carl Sagan has a book called The Dragons of Eden, and it has a whole lot of stuff about left brain and right brain and about tests they did where they severed people's corpus callosum, which is the thing that joins the left brain to the right brain, and some of the stuff that happened when they severed their colostrum to test which half of the brain did what. It's very interesting stuff called The Dragons of Eden.
Yes, I've saw some of those too, Marty. So fascinating, really crazy stuff.
Amrita, would you like to say something? I see your hand is up. You just have to unmute yourself.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
So I have always thought I am more of a left brain person. But recently my dog passed away, and it was something like switched on. I'm thinking I've had visions and a lot of knowing, which I am trying to figure out what it means. And I'm guessing it kind of relates to the third eye. So would that be right brain, or what would that be considered?
Susan?
I see the pineal, the third eye, function as working best in a balanced kind of situation. But I think it's heavily right brained in that the properties of the pituitary gland seem to be very compatible with right brain thinking, but in a balanced brain. I mean, when you can kind of balance yourself through meditation or whatever, tapping, whatever you do, whatever balances you out, and then you work with third eye stuff. I think there's you get a good result from a more balanced left right brain balance. But I don't think that the third eye is. I'm not sure that it's either particularly left or right brain. Maybe it serves both, because it's kind of sits right in the center there, back there in our brain. So I've always just assumed that it had to do with both, it served both the left and right brain, but I'm not positive about that.
Interesting.
It's really interesting to even think about that.
Yeah, because I've kind of in the last 3 months since my dog passed, I've seen him. He's visited me. I even have a picture where I've seen his reflection, and I've kind of had visions as well. And I've always considered myself more of a rational person, and it's just opened my eyes to so-called another world.
Yeah.
They love us just like we love them. Yeah. And they will come back.
Yes. And it's really comforting to know that he still visits me.
Yeah. Isn't that wonderful?
Thank you, Amrita.
Thank you.
As we get back into the right and left brains, Monroe says that more recent concepts hold that our human consciousness flickers back and forth between left and right brain as situations arise during our daily physical life. Peak performance comes when both the left and right brain thinking are integrated, unified, synchronous. And then I just made a little note here of his HemiSync products. I guess you can see how that's going. And if you're not familiar with HemiSync, it's Monroes. They have a patent on the technology that uses sound technology to bring together your left and right hemispheres and try to get them working together with a little different frequency between the two. I think it's around 4 hertz, 4 or 5 hertz. And that's a good state to be in if you want to try to have an out-of-body experience. Just a little crutch to try to help you. And it's still strong today. A lot of people still use it. The human right brain has not changed for millennia. It has not grown or evolved. Left brain consciousness has been steadily evolving, either by design or necessity. Left brain equals human mind modified by the Earth life system. The right brain equals expression of the core self, the timeless, non-physical part of us. The trick is to get both the left and right brain into simultaneous and synchronous action. The sexual reproductive drive is the most powerful animal instinct on the Earth life system, designed specifically for physical survival of the species. So he throws that back in there again towards the end of the chapter. So I just made as we get towards the end of this chapter here, he gets a lot of information. He starts breaking things down into the left and right in this chapter a lot. He goes a lot more in depth into this. And the way I understood it is towards the end of the chapter, Monroe gets into the goods and bads of being human and living on Earth. The dualities of Earth and life. That's how I summed it up. Would anybody like to talk about chapter 7, about left and right brain, HemiSync, anything else? Susan?
It was about polarity. The whole chapter seemed to be about the polarity and this is the reality where we have polarity. This is polarity consciousness. And we come here, that's part of the reason we come here, because we can experience, the pull this way, the pull that way. And I think that our left and right brain, there's a polarity thing there too. And when you bring it together, which is, I think, what we're attempting to do in life, is to balance everything out so that this, and they've even called like divine feminine, divine masculine, it's the meeting of the two. It's where polarity comes together. That's, like you said, that's the greatest mind state. That's that's where the great inventions, the great, all of this comes when they work together. So he was talking about polarity, the polarity of the left brain, polarity right brain, and then where they meet. That's just peak possibilities there.
Thanks, Susan. Julie?
A couple questions. Comment, you're talking about polarities. I always compare compare or, well, in contrast with the earth realm to the astral realm. The first stop off in our afterlife journey is what I perceive the middle astral to be. aren't there polarities there? I mean, I guess we don't have the brain still. We're not really using the physical brain in the astral realm, just like what I've heard. This is things I've read and heard, that we don't really use our digestive system. So we don't need to poop and pee, and we don't have to eat per se, but then others have said, well, you do need some kind of nutritional energy. But and so maybe perhaps, and then if you don't need your organs, they sort of just disappear. This is what I've read again and heard. So, and of course, I guess we don't have a physical brain. That's why we've talked about how even when we travel with our astral bodies and we come back into our physical bodies, we have to download the information that we experienced into our physical brain. It's not, you know, snap of a fingers and everything is remembered the same way that we experienced it when we come back to our physical body. So, but yet there's negative and positive from what I've read on the astral realm. There's still people drinking and partying it up and trying to trick people and scam people. And there's also beautiful areas of the astral realm. It sounds very, very similar to Earth existence. So here's my other question. Not only aren't there polarity, you know, some kind of polarities going on the astral realm, but karma. People say, well, you got to come back to Earth to live out karmic this and karmic that. Well, why can't I do that on the astral realm? Why do I have to incarnate on Earth, you know, necessarily to live out some karmic stuff? So these are all questions that, you know, swim around in my brain, my physical brain. You know, and some say you don't, you know, I've read some say, oh, you have to incarnate because you have to, whatever, you know, get the karmic stuff correct. And then other people say, no, you have complete free will. You do not have to incarnate. People choose to incarnate because, or souls, or whatever you want to call it, choose to incarnate for various reasons. And then my other question, so that was kind of a lot to unpack, was have any of you used Ananda? It's an application on your phone that you can download, and it's binaural beats. And if what is your experience with Ananda if you have used it? That's it.
If I can add,
Julie, I was going to answer one of the questions. I was going to say, Robert Monroe says when you come here to Earth, that it's an experience that's respected, you know, as you leave, no matter where you go after this, the astral, whatever realm you go to. So it's an experience like no other. I would have to throw that at you there from Robert Monroe's.
if I can add,
Yeah, go ahead.
I get into trouble every time I bring this topic up, so I don't expect anything different. But my view is that both, we choose to incarnate. We choose. It's not that we're punished. We're not back here as a punishment. But we choose to. We choose to. This life. There's this guy on YouTube I follow. His name is Aaron Doherty. I don't know if anyone ever look at his videos, and he teaches things like that.
Yes,
but
I know.
my view is that you choose to, because when you pass this life, you meet what I call a council, and they sit down with you and discuss your past life, and you choose, look, I'm going to go back because I want to get, should I say, points so that I could become a higher being. The other thing on binaural beats or hemisync, looking back at some of his earlier work and wondering when Robert Monroe first discovered that he could separate from his body, I recognized something, and being in the same technology, he was working among generators that generated 50 cycles and 60 cycles. So there was a between 50 and 60 is 55. And he was exposed to that for a long period of time during the day. And then he found that something happened in that space of 5 hertz. And also I have worked along generators. Here we are 60 cycles, but some of our generators are 55. So we are exposed to that 5 different hertz, and that creates something in our minds.
Yeah, Mikey, good point on that. How he talks about that with the sound. He also, I think, referred to a plane engine noise. I don't know if you remember that. As a pilot flies a plane, the two engines, the hertz between the two engines back and forth were making the pilot sleepy or go into like a altered state.
One of my experience, because I have to travel from island to island, and we use the smaller planes, and I find myself having the ability to astral project just by listening to the engines.
Yeah.
And not that I'm close, I'm high from the earth, but I enjoy traveling from island to island on these small crafts. I don't know, you call them, I don't know what's the name, but they have these propellers and they're not the jet type engines. And if I just focus on the engines, I find myself in the altered state of consciousness. I don't know if people can share or relate to that.
Okay, I'm gonna let Susan go.
I was just wondering if anybody had ever heard the story of Charles Lindbergh when he flew across the Atlantic, wherever the flight that he made, and he was solo, and he flew and he started having an out-of-body experience during his flight. Did anybody ever hear that story? It's really interesting. You should look it up. It's I've got a book called Psychic Voyages here, and it details it in that book. But I've seen, you can find it online. You can probably find it on YouTube, anywhere, talk about it. But it was really interesting to hear him describe that. It was an out-of-body experience. I mean, he was so lulled by, I think, the sound of the engines, like you were saying, Mikey, the sound, the engine noise or whatever. He was aware that he had to stay conscious, and I know that it startled him because he talked about the fact that he was looking at his own body from behind his body, and it was really frightening to him because he's supposed to be driving this plane, flying this plane, but he was having an out-of-body experience and experiencing a lot of stuff while that flight was going on. It was really fascinating.
Yeah, that is fascinating stuff. All right, everyone. Next Friday will be chapters 8, 9, and 10. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Thanks for sharing.
See y'all Friday.
We'll see you Friday.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.